Okay, we're going through some mods and assets related to City Skylines graphic adjustment. I have a list here. You can go subscribe to those items depending on the function that you need. The important mod that we need include Theme Mixer 2.5. We need this mod to adjust the terrain texture. Lumina is for color adjustment, shadow adjustment, and sky background cube map. We use dynamic resolution to adjust the game render resolution. You can run the game at higher resolution than your monitor can support. Technically, Lumina have the same function, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to be functioning correctly. Visibility control is used to adjust the draw distance for various different objects. The optional mode includes time warp fix or play it for time control. This is especially useful when you want to take screenshots. You can set a specific time of day with the best lighting and shadow. For example, in the morning or during the evening. ACME is for camera control. You can use repaint to adjust the color of the road universally. AD Cloud Replacer is to adjust the cloud texture. The cloud texture is not the same thing as the sky background cube map. For advanced users that want to adjust more graphical effects, you can use Reshape to add something like ambient occlusion, bloom effect. There are literally hundreds of reshape effects you can play around with. The step of adjusting City Skylines graphic really isn't complicated. In the most basic process, it is literally just apply a LUT, apply a map theme, and adjust the brightness. That's all. But if you want to have more custom adjustment, then you need to deal with sliders on mods like Lumina. There are some other older mods like Post Process FX, Ultimate Eye Candy, Render It. Unfortunately, some part of it no longer function, so I'm not really recommend it. You want to use it, that's up to you. On the workshop, at the right side, category list, go to map themes. You can subscribe as many map themes as you like and switch and mix them in game. Map themes are basically collection of textures. The terrain texture like grass, hill, and water. The commonly recommended ones are something like Labyrinth, Temperate Cost 4K, Seashell, Abu Simbel for more desert looks, also 4K Prior. Then at the bottom of the category list, go to Color Correction LUT. LUT is basically like a filter effect. That's a lazy way to describe it, but yeah. You can subscribe to as many as you want and try them out in game. But personally, I will be just using the Labyrinth LUT or search for production, the Japanese production LUT. Labyrinth and JP production LUT are basically the clean and clear type of filter. If you prefer something a bit more moody, you can try some other LUT. Make sure you go into the Content Manager mod section and enable all the mod you subscribe. Before we do any adjustment, make sure your graphic quality setting is max. Disable depth of field. Depth of field is the distance blurring effect. Also disable the frame grain amount. We can change the color correction override later in game. The first step, select a custom loot. You can just pick and check which one you prefer the most. I'm going to use Laviante here. And then select a custom map theme. Let's try 4K prior. This one is a more dull texture. Central Australia looks absolutely crazy. Starboard looks nice. More vivid than the other themes. So okay, let's start here. If you zoom close enough to the grass, you see these weird looking things. Those are sprites. You can disable it here. Now the ground is clean. Check around the map for other terrain surfaces. If you think something doesn't look nice, you can change it to other themes. For example, maybe the cliff is not up to my preferences. You can click the cliff icon and switch only the cliff to something else. This one looks quite nice. Okay. The water normal is for the smoothness of the water surface. If you think the surface is too rough, try other themes texture, see if there are more smoother one. This one is quite smooth. 4K prior is not bad as well. Okay, I'll go with this one. I recommend set the watercolor to something quite dark or all black together, and set the underwater color to light blue or light green. This will be reflected on the edges of terrain. If you think the brightness isn't sufficient, you can increase the exposure value. The relax scattering value adjusts the darkness of the shadowy area. Make sure not to set it to 0, otherwise it just pitch black. It's very often I see players have screenshots with pitch black shadow area. It is simply can be fixed by raising the relax scattering value a little bit. Maybe 0.8. If you set it too high, it will have a red tint. It's okay as well depending on your visual preferences. Before we going forward with other mods, make sure to pick a more interesting time of day. Either use the time warp fix mod or play it mod. You can adjust time of day. If you're not able to adjust the time of day, go into your option, gameplay, and make sure use day-night cycle is enabled. You can also adjust the longitude and latitude. This adjusts the position of the sun, and so it also changes the position of the shadow. The next thing is I'm going to decrease the field of view with ACME mode. The vanilla field of view of 45 is honestly a little bit too high. It doesn't look very natural. Try something like 25. That will look better. Sometimes when I take screenshots, I also go all the way down to something like 15. Yes, indeed, if you adjust the FOV, it also affects the render distance. It also affects the render distance of various objects. Let's say I use a value of 15 in this case. You can see the house just turned into LOD. We can increase the draw distance with visibility control. Load distance. You can adjust the visibility distance for individual element. In this case, I'm going to set the building to 3 km. Don't go too crazy with this. Excessive render distance will absolutely destroy your frame rate, so be careful of that. Again, vanilla 45 degree versus 25 degree. The lower value definitely looks more natural. Dynamic resolution. Use the F10 key to toggle the UI. Here you can set a higher resolution the game render with in order to counter the pixelation or jagged edge problem. Of course, higher resolution does reduce frame rate, so make sure not to go too crazy about it. Normally, I only turn this on when I want to take screenshots. Otherwise, in normal gameplay, I'm not setting this to higher value. This is a zoom in example. On the left side is 1440p. On the right side is 5K. While it is not perfect solution, it definitely looks much more smoother, less pixelated with the higher render resolution. Okay, repaint. Click the button on the unified UI and click any road. Click the apply to all network, and then you can adjust the road color universally. You want it to be darker or you want it to be lighter, that's up to you. Okay, now we talk about the fog and sky. By default, your map edges probably looks like this. You can simply disable the edge fog and it's gone. We do need to keep classic fog turned on, otherwise your sky texture will not appear. Pick from the list any sky cube map you prefer. Wait for it to load. Make sure your color decay is set to max, otherwise you will have a red tint on the distance. Also decrease your fog height to minimum, so you're not seeing the blue tint at the background. Also decrease fog distance to 0, so there is no the foggy overlay. Let's try a different loot this time. Let's try seashell. This loot is very stylized, bright and stylized. Just play around with the important value like hue, sun temperature, brightness, gamma, contrast. Usually I'm not touching the brightness and gamma, but using the exposure value instead. The sun intensity, ray light scattering, and shadow intensity. These are the important values that actually affect the visual drastically. Most other things aren't really very important, so I'm not touching them to avoid unnecessary complication. Okay, reshape. What on earth is reshape? The most simple way I can describe reshape is it is Photoshop for games. There are hundreds of shader effects written by different individuals. Not all of them are suitable for real-time gameplay. Majority are most useful in photographing or taking screenshots. Just go to reshape.me, click the download button. The version at the top, you can use it for online games. The version at the bottom with add-on support, don't use that on online games or you might get into trouble. But it is fine for City Skylines since this is a single player game. Run the exe, locate the game. If it's not in the list, click the browse button. Hit next. City Skylines is DirectX 11, so click the second option, Microsoft DirectX 10, 11 or 12. Then you are presented with a list of shader effect collection. There are literal hundreds of them in here. But for start, I'm just going to pick Sweet Apex, Legacy. When you click the item, you can see the list of included effects. In this case, I'm only going to pick Filmic Pass, Magic Bloom. You can try out other effects when you have the time. Under all these effects, I'm going to pick Adaptive Fog. I will explain what this does later. Under Queen by Marty McFly, pick the Bloom, DOF, Lightroom, MXAO. When you're done picking the item, click Next. It will download the shader effects. After the effects finish download, you will see this add-on installation screen. We simply skip this and finish. When you're in the game, if preset is installed correctly, you will see the overlay at the top asking you to hit the home button. You can skip the tutorial if you want, and you will see this list of shader effect installed. But before that, I'm going to change the hotkey to something else. F2 for overlay, F3 for toggle effect. And under there, click the group effect files with tabs. So when I enable something, the effect is listed by tabs. Okay, we are back into the game. Before we do anything, we need to check one element first. Turn on the display depth. You'll see this weird screen. Change the option to depth map. You likely see a black screen because the default configuration is not accurate. Click the Edit Global Preprocessor Definition button. and set the value upside down 1, reverse 1. Wait for it to reload, and you should see a faint gray images. This tells Reshade what is at the front and what is at the back. The purpose of depth information is so that we can use shader like adaptive fog, for example. Here I add a thick fog at the distance, as well as depth of field. Disable autofocus so you can control it manually. You want to set the hyperfocal depth distance to 1.0 for the shadow effect to function correctly. Now, as you can see, the background is blurred. You can drag the manual focus value to find the point where you want to focus. Reshade also have some anti-aliasing function, such as the FXAA. It's very subtle, but no harm enabling it. And then there are a lot of bloom effects, such as the queen bloom. Tweak the intensity, the curve value to find a value you like. There's also various other bloom effects by different authors. This one is really bright. Here's a different bloom effect, magic bloom. You can try them out and see if the effect is up to your preferences. Let's talk about the Queen MXAO, ambient occlusion. Let's zoom into some small detail. Pay attention to the corner of objects when I toggle the effects on and off. You can see the edges have a little bit of shadow added to them. In order to have this effect cover the whole screen, regardless of distance, set the start value to 0 and end value to 1. You can of course adjust the amount. This will adjust the intensity of the shadow effect. Effect like this is not exactly useful for actual gameplay, because if you enable this, you will get flickering all over the place, potentially. Things like this is more useful for capturing screenshots. I quite like the vibe of this graphics setup, but the green color is a little bit too deep. We can deal with this with Reshade, with the effect Lightroom. Lightroom is a very powerful color adjustment shader with a tons of effects available. The usual brightness gamma, saturation. It can also adjust individual color. For example, I don't want the green to be this vivid. I can lower the saturation. Now it is a little bit more darker. Let's see the comparison. Before, after. Before, after. So with the Lightroom shader, you can target a specific color and make adjustment to it. Maybe the red is not vivid enough. You can increase the red saturation. Now the red looks a lot more vivid. Of course, there are a lot of funny, weird effects in Reshade as well. Just what on earth is this for? I don't know. There is CRT TV effect. All these funny things. What is this nostalgia poster effect? Maybe you want to make an old school poster of this view for making postcard or whatever. Yeah, as I said, Reshape is Photoshop for games. There are hundreds and hundreds of effects, some useful, some maybe not. Can spend time play around yourself.